Okay, thank you very much for allowing officers to attend with us. Okay, public hearing. Mr. Grubbs.
Thank you, Mayor. Members of the council, for your notification, Ordinance 66 has been withdrawn by the applicant, Ordinance 66. Madam Clerk, would you please read Ordinance 5166?
Hey, Mr. Grubbs, just for, is a postponement and a withdrawal the same?
The applicant is coming back with a different zoning.
Back through the Planning Commission?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. Madam Clerk, would you please read Ordinance 51, 67, 70, and also Resolution 53?
Ordinance 51, 2008-09, first reading. Public hearing was held March 5th. Amending the zoning ordinance and map of the city of Clarksville, application of Hawk S. Chong, Jeffrey B. Long, agent, for zone change on property at Otis Smith Drive and Bellamy Lane from AG Agricultural District to C2 General Commercial District. Ordinance 66, 2008-09, first reading. Amending the zoning ordinance and map of the city of Clarksville, application of Ronald Parker, Janice Grubbs, Rhonda Ramsey, and Todd Morris, agent, for zone change on property at Trenton Round Road and Peters Mill Road from R1 Single Family Residential District to R2 Single Family Residential District. Ordinance 70, 2008-09, first reading. Amending the zoning ordinance and map of the city of Clarksville, application of Allen Farms West, Richard Swift, agent, for zone change on property at Peters Mill Road and Allen Griffey Road from AG Agricultural District to R2 Single Family Residential District. Resolution 53, 2008-09, approving vacation of an unimproved alleyway at the intersection of College Street and North First Street. Request of City of Clarksville.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Mayor, I move we go into public hearing.
Second.
Motion second. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed. Okay, we're in public hearing. Okay, those in favor of Ordinance 51, please come forward. State your name.
Good evening.
Oh. We had a public hearing last month, but yeah, I think the Planning Commission,
We postponed it.
okay. Okay, Jeff, I hate to tell you this, but the public hearing's already been held, and we're entitled to one public hearing, so I apologize to have you up, but the public hearing's already... Okay. It is.
It's hot.
Okay, those in favor of Ordinance 67, please come forward.
Mayor,
Hey,
Council, I'm Vernon Weekly. I'm the engineer for the applicant. The Planning Commission staff recommended approval. The Planning Commission voted to recommend approval, and I'm here tonight asking for your vote to adopt this ordinance. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer.
Thank you, Bernie. Anyone else speak in favor of Ordinance 67, please come forward. Those in opposition to Ordinance 67, please come forward. Those in favor of Ordinance 70, please come forward.
Mayor, members of the City Council, I'm Richard Swift. I'm here to represent the Allen family. This is just an extension of an existing R2 zone. Nothing more complicated than that. So, be glad to answer any questions.
Any questions? Thank you, Ms. Swift. Anyone else speak in favor of Ordinance 70? Those in opposition to Ordinance 70, please come forward. Those in favor of Resolution 53, please come forward. Those in opposition to Resolution 53, please come forward. Those in favor of Resolution 52, please come forward. Those in opposition to Resolution 52, please come forward.
Mayor, I move that we go back into regular session.
Motion second. Any discussion? Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Get back in regular session.
Just want to remind all members of the council that all recommendations upon the advice of legal counsel shall be for approval. Ordinance 510809, both the staff and the Planning Commission recommendation is for approval, and I so move.
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion? Seeing none, please press your selection. Okay. Okay, ordinance 51 is approved. 12-0.
Okay, ordinance 670809, both the planning commission and the staff recommendation is for approval, and I so move.
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion? Please press your selection.
Mr. Burkhart?
Okay, you're going to... Okay, that's all right. Order 67 is approved. 11 to 1 abstention.
Okay, ordinance 700809, both the staff and the regional planning commission recommendation is for approval, and I so move.
Second.
And second. Any discussion? Please press your selection. Okay, ordinance 70 is approved.
Resolution 530809, both the regional planning commission and the staff recommendation is for approval, and I so move.
Motion second. Any discussion? Please press your selection. Thank you very much. Okay. Resolution 52 is approved. Okay.
Okay, resolution 50,
Was that 53? Resolution 53 approved.
all
Thank
right, resolution 520809, the recommendation is approval for approval.
Second.
you. And second. Any discussion? Mr. Grubbs, do you want to say something?
No, sir.
Okay, Ms. McLaughlin.
Mayor, will the department heads be able to make amendments to this?
Mr. Riggins?
They can do that during the budget process, during the budget hearings.
Okay.
Is this the 5-year plan?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So during the budget process, you can amend the 5-year plan one time up to the budget time?
There's no limitation on that.
Okay.
What the encouragement is if you're going to ask for it at budget time, it should be in this document. But that doesn't mean things couldn't change between now and then and the process fluctuates, so that's fine.
Okay. Thank you. Good question, Ms. McLaughlin. Okay. Anything else? Okay, there's a motion and a second on the floor. Any other discussion? Please press your selection. Okay, resolution 52 is approved.
Thank you, Mayor. That concludes our report.
Thank you, Mr. Grubbs. Consent agenda, Madam Clerk. When you have time there.
All items in this portion of the agenda are considered to be routine and non-controversial by the council and may be approved by one motion. However, a member of the council may request that an item be removed for separate consideration under the appropriate committee report. Ordinance 56, 2008-09, second reading, amending the official code relative to River District guidelines, review of River District guidelines by the Downtown District Partnership Design Review Board. Ordinance 57, 2008-09, second reading, authorizing exercise of right of eminent domain to obtain easements and property necessary for improvements to the Fairway Drive lift station. Ordinance 58, 2008-09, second reading, authorizing exercise of right of eminent domain to obtain necessary easements and property associated with TDOT improvements at the intersection of Craft Street, North 2nd Street, Riverside Drive, and New Providence Boulevard. Ordinance 59, 2008-09, second reading, authorizing exercise of right of eminent domain to obtain necessary easements and property associated with the Monterey Place Water Main Replacement Projects. Ordinance 60, 2008-09, second reading, amending the official code relative to police specialty pay. Ordinance 64, 2008-09, second reading, amending the zoning ordinance and map of the city of Clarksville, application of Theodore Johnson, Rufus S. Johnson III, agent, for zone change on property at Memorial Drive and Ridge Haven Road from C1 Neighborhood Commercial District to MLUD Mixed Land Use District. Ordinance 65, 2008-09, second reading, amending the 2009 Legislative Department operating budget for installation of a new voting system, adoption of minutes March 5th and March 23rd.
Okay, can I get a motion?
I move for approval, Mayor.
Motion approved. And second, any discussion about the consent agenda? Please press your selection. Okay, consent agenda is approved as read. Mr. Lewis? Okay, did you want to record yours as a yes? Okay, thank you. Madam Clerk, if you can so note. Okay, thank you. Bill and codes, Mr. Red?
Thank you, Mayor. We had 488 cases that were worked, 123 of them were citizen complaints, and 365 were self-initiated. That's my report, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Red. Community Development, Mr. Summers?
Just an announcement, sir, things continue to roll well on the stimulus money and stuff. We got another review, the block grant coming in for about $217,000.
Is that the second one or is that the first one?
I think that's at least one of a couple.
Okay, good. I knew we had another one, about 200 some odd thousand. Is that the second one, Rita?
This is the CDGR Recovery Act money, it's $250 million, it's in addition to our total.
Okay, that's the one that I was made aware of, familiar with. Yeah, okay. Thank you, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Summers. Finance, Ms. McLaughlin? Yes, I will. I think you're on.
Okay, thank you. Resolution 54 is authorizing the donation of property at 504 Elder Street. The Community Housing Department had tried to sell this property, and they are recommending that it be donated to a nonprofit agency through the Community Development Program. Make a motion for approval.
Second.
Okay, motion second. Any discussion about Resolution 54? Okay.
Is it on?
Yes, ma'am.
Is this the one where we were talking about maybe the city renting it out, or?
Rita crunched the numbers, and it would put us in the red rather than keeping us in the black. You know, insurance, maintenance of the structure, et cetera. And if Rita could probably speak more clearly to the actual numbers, but
We looked at that and kind of did further analysis of it. And
Rita, won't you come forward so that you can speak into that microphone and it can be picked up by the television?
Mayor and council, when we did a further analysis on it, began to look really at, at the numbers and the amount of rent that we would be able to get from the unit, the insurance, and just basically to the city liability of having a rental unit. We felt that it really wasn't in the best interest of the city, that nonprofits, a lot of nonprofits in the community do rent units like this for affordable units, and it just seems like it would make sense for us to try to go ahead and donate it. The numbers just don't really add up, and the liability alone we felt was pretty significant, and I spoke to Mr. Baker in detail about that particular part of it.
How would the process work of the nonprofit being chosen?
Okay, that's a very good question, and what we would do is I would recommend we put out an RFP, a request for proposal, and outline very detailed exactly what we want. And then nonprofits can apply to our office for that donation. And then once it's donated, we actually will put a covenant on it so that it has to remain affordable to low-income persons for 20 years. And then we would monitor. We have to monitor it over the 20-year period. We check it periodically to make sure it's being kept up and make sure that it's being rented to those people that we want it rented to.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Harris?
Yes, well, Mayor, pretty much I was going to say the same thing, the question on how was the organization going to be determined. If I could make just a brief recommendation by me sitting on the board of directors for Habitat, and that's the business that they're in. So by all means, I'll give a sales pitch toward Habitat.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Okay. Ms. McLaughlin?
we have a motion. So
Motion second. Any other discussion? Those in, please press your selection. First time with this equipment here tonight, and we'll,
sticky.
it is sticky. Okay, and Resolution 54 is approved.
Okay, Resolution 55 is a request to transfer property at 418 Petersville Road for Providence Point Development Project.
Okay.
That's for the,
Okay, second. Any other discussion on Resolution 55? Please press your selection.
Mayor, did you turn our buttons off over here?
No? Are you having trouble with them? Or it takes a little while? No? Okay, Resolution 55 is approved.
Okay, Resolution 56, it would be a resolution where the city recognizes MTAS for their 60th anniversary of services to municipalities in the state of Tennessee.
I move for approval. Second.
Any other discussion? Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Resolution 56 approved.
That's the end of my report, Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. McLaughlin. Gas and Water, Mr. Summers.
Ordinance 72, 2008-09, first reading, authorizing the exercise of all its opinions to remain to acquire easements and rights of ways for improvements and select design and construction of various projects. You're going to see this on a continuing basis, as I said.
Gas and Water is trying to get on infrastructure upgrades and changes, and this is just sort of having it in a hip pocket in case you run into any issues right here. Make a motion for approval.
And second, any other discussion? Ordinance 72. Please press your selection. Ordinance 72 is approved.
Mayor, also on the gas and water, Jen, just a couple of notes to pass along. Gas and Water is working very hard on a new customer information system. They're in process of training right now, getting that online. What'll happen is when customers call in, this will allow the staff to access customer service data a lot quicker and sooner and help them achieve answers and their needs much better. Secondary phase that'll follow on later is customers will actually have direct access to their own data and account. So if they wanted to take a look at stuff or perform actions, they'll be able to do that. So that's coming up on the horizon. Also, just to pass along, the reorganization has gone well, as you've read and been told about. Looks like the bottom line was 17 people were not retained within gas and water. About 7 of those have decided to leave service altogether. Of that 17, the other 10 are looking and working with the city right now on some job openings within the city. That's all my report, sir.
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you.
How many were left without positions out of the 57 that was let off?
54, you had 17.
17 left
Right,
without
of which,
positions.
according to the information I have, about 7 decided that to go ahead and, I guess, look elsewhere, and 10 others where I think we're looking, they would like to stay in employment with the city and are in the process of looking at job openings within City General.
Thank you.
Why don't you describe a little bit as to what the process was? Went through targeting the whole department as to job classifications and qualifications, and then redefine the job, and then they applied, those that were losing their jobs applied for the new positions.
Yeah, I'll try to give you sort of a brief scenario of that. As you're aware, Mr. Hickey was looking at reorganizing gas and water, and basically this was phase 2. If you go back to about 2 years ago, matter of fact, when Jim Durrett was put in charge for several months, looking at the process and stuff, Pat came in later, and he had taken about a year and a half to analyze the process, look at the steps and stuff, and felt that there needed to be changes in how the organization actually operated to achieve some efficiencies right there. So looking at that, basically redesigned the organization and looked at the number of positions that would be affected. And as I recall, I think in terms of positions being deleted, job classifications under the new organization, which I wrote job descriptions for, there's about 54 people that were, 54 workers that were initially identified. 35 new positions were developed within the organization. So potentially we're looking at 22 people that may not have a position in gas and water. There were some people that were within retirement age. Those people took that option, so that freed up some spaces. In the new job classifications, all the workers that were interested in coming back were interviewed. As I understand, they were actually testing. They were advised as to what training procedures would be required, and that's one of the things that Mr. Hickey's invoking now in gas and water are new certifications, testing, and stuff for promotions and job qualifications on that. So all the people were interviewed. The interviews, I believe, they have finished up now. I believe all the decisions have been made on that, and that's where we came down in the end at 17 former workers were not tendered a position. Either they didn't accept ones they might could qualify for or were interested in, or they decided to just they didn't want to, weren't interested in gas and water. Like I say, again, if my numbers are correct, about 10 people, though, were still interested in staying with the city if they could, and I think they're working through Will White and the other department heads to interview for job openings within the city. Of that 10, I don't know where they're at exactly on those interviews right now. But the thing was, having done this professionally, when you reorganize, it's never an easy issue. You have to redesign the organizations, and you try to minimize the hit. And I'd like to thank Will White, the city staff, and Pat Hickey and the gas and water staff. They took a very difficult situation. I think they made it about as smooth as it could be. There'll be some after-action lessons looked at, improvements that if we reorganize in the future, things that we could probably do better. There's always ways to try to do it better. But Pat's very pleased the way it's going, and I think gas and water will be a leaner, meaner operation down there.
Those employees that did leave city employment, those that served, that had 0 to 5 years would get 2 years, 2 weeks severance pay. 5 to 10 years be 4 weeks severance pay. Over 10 years would get 6 weeks severance pay. In addition, those who wanted to continue to search within city government positions, they would be treated as though they were existing city employees. They would be able to apply on the blue form within the 7-day period and give the same credibility as though they were continued employment with the city up to 6 months. So just trying to help with the impact as best as we can. Okay, thank you, Mr. Summers.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Harris?
No report, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Mr. Forrester? Got you quick, didn't we?
Pardon me?
I got you quick, didn't
How
I?
you got me? The community Easter egg hunt is this Sunday at 2 p.m. at Heritage Park. Children ages 1 through 12 can come hunt eggs and have their picture taken with the Easter Bunny. The annual punt, pass, and kick event will be April the 11th at 9 a.m. at Hermitage Park. This competition is the official competition of the MLB League. It is comprised of 3 portions. The pitch competitions allows youth to practice throwing like the MLB pitchers. The hit competition is a chance to hit a line drive like the pros. The last part of the competition is the run. It gives competition the competitors the chance to practice running the bases and sliding into home. Registration is going on now at the Parks and Recreation Office. For more details, call 645-7476. The spring softball schedule is posted on the city website. Queen City Road Race is April 19th at APSU Stadium. It's also on the website. Warrior West Military Appreciation Day picnic is April 25th at Fairgrounds Park. And I have one other item that will come up later as an ordinance. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Forrester. Mr. Grubbs?
Yes, Mayor, I just want to make a little continuation statement on our officers that were here tonight. For your information, they go to the Tennessee Law Enforcement Training Academy, and they are there for 10 weeks. They stay there Sunday through Friday, and then they come home on the weekend. So it's pretty tough. I know I did it many years ago, so I appreciate their hard work and them being here tonight with us. Also, just for your information, we're trying to make arrangements to get the speed SUV here for a demonstration for the whole council. I'm still working on that. Hopefully it'll be here in a couple of weeks, and we'll let you know when that time will be and where the location will be so you can view it. Mr. Lewis, do you have anything you want to mention tonight?
Mr. Lewis?
Just real quick, Mayor, I wanted to give an update on the District 7 Tactical Training Center, the Shoot House, and the council members that have met my challenge, Councilwoman McLaughlin, Councilwoman Barbara Johnson, Council Wallace Red, Gino Grubbs, and the mayor, as of today, have met the challenge I gave them. And it's working off of donations to make this happen. You know, that's the only way they're going to have this shoot house. So, y'all, the rest of y'all, I'm waiting on your check.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis.
Ms. Johnson's going to bring her. She already told me.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. please try to commit to your challenge over there. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Lewis?
Mayor, the street department worked 260-plus work orders in the last month while doing all the other things the street department must do to keep the traffic moving within the city. And as always, they're doing an outstanding job. That concludes my report, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Transportation Committee, Ms. Johnson?
Yes, sir, Mayor. I told y'all I was gonna have a report this time. Well, light me up.
Yeah, light you up.
Yeah, light me up. Okay, the Tennessee Department of Transportation has allocated the Clarksville Transit System $1,550,795 of American Recovery and Reinvestment Act funds to support capital projects for public transportation. These funds will be used to purchase 2 30-foot hybrid buses, 1 30-foot heavy-duty bus, and 2 support vehicles and associated capital maintenance items. The Kentucky Transportation Cabinet has allocated the Clarksville Transit System $409,999 of American Recovery and Reinvestment Act funds. These funds will be used to purchase 8 paratransit vehicles. You listen to me.
I'm listening to every word you're saying. I'm still caught on me lighting you up.
But that concludes my report,
Oh,
Mayor.
okay.
That's a great report.
Very nice report, and that certainly was good. And Jim
Yes.
Smith, congratulations to you and your department, and Ms. Johnson being chair, though you're doing a great job, and I'm very proud of what you brought in there. You've made some great contacts, Washington, D.C., and appreciate all you're doing.
He's a good director.
He is. Thank you, Ms. Johnson.
You're welcome. That concludes my report.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Johnson. Ms. McLaughlin?
Okay. Ordinance 71 is amending the 2009 golf course operating budget and the 2009 capital projects budget for Mason Rudolph Clubhouse. They had the money budgeted to renovate the clubhouse at Mason Rudolph. Once they got into the process, they found extra damage. So they're requesting that they move $25,000 from the Swan Lake budget over to Mason Rudolph to take care of that building.
Second. Any discussion, ordinance 71? Please press your selection.
Oh, it's faster.
Yeah. Mr. Forrester?
I was reading.
Okay, ordinance 71 is approved. Okay, ordinance 73 is amending the 2009 capital. Ordinance 73 is amending the 2009 capital projects.
I voted no on that last one.
Okay, please record as a yes, Madam Clerk. Thank you, Mr. Forrester. Ordinance 73 on first reading is amending the 2009 capital projects budget for the rails to trails. This is the transfer of the funds from the donation of approximately $109,000 on the fountain into the Rails to Trails project. In addition to that, we are requesting that we transfer the approximate $239,000, whatever the amount is, from FEMA for the debris cleanup during the last storm to transfer into the Rails to Trails project. And I'm move for approval, Ordinance 71. Second. Any discussion, Ordinance 71? Please press your selection. Okay, Ordinance 71 is approved. Okay. Oh, excuse me, 73 is approved. Thank you. Okay, Ordinance 74 is authorizing the exercise of right of eminent domain to obtain easements and rights of way for the Rails to Trails project. I'd like to make a motion for approval, and then we'll discuss it.
Second.
And discussion. Ordinance 74 is the first reading to set up the eminent domain for the Rails to Trails project. We between the first reading and second reading, we will try to make efforts to meet with the property owners and discuss our desire, what our focus and goals are on the rails to trails, and try to reach a value that is reasonable. What I would want you to know and the public to know is I would not anticipate this being a lengthy process. I would anticipate it would be a process that would move fairly quickly on, and if there would be something that would hold our process up, probably we'd go ahead and enter the eminent domain and enter the process from a legal perspective and enter the money into the court and let the court act appropriately. There's a motion and a second. Order 74. Is there any discussion? You got Mr. Harris.
Yes, Mayor, just a basic question, pretty much. Have we identified the properties that we're considering, or have the city considered properties that may be a problem in reference to eminent domain? Or is this just one of those blanket tools that we're going at pretty much?
I think the way it's defined, the attorney will talk about that.
I believe it's, if you look in your, in the ordinance, it's tax map 55, parcels 4, 5, 6, 7, 36, and 37. If you'll look in the whereases in the third whereas of ordinance number 74.
If you don't want any business here.
We've got a map here, but this is not the one that we've been using or that I've been using.
That is one that shows the property on the side. It shows the rails trail. It also shows the agricultural property and also that's in the floodplain.
I guess my only question is, are we talking several properties? Are we talking 2, 5, 10? Just a number pretty much. I'm trying to...
6.
6, okay. That's all I have, Mayor. That's it.
Okay, thank
Just
you.
was curious on how many properties. 6.
Sure. Okay. Yes, Mr. Burkhart?
Yes, sir. Mayor Lamb, any of the owners to this date, or are we going straight to eminent domain? Are we going to?
Well,
I'm not sure if we have that. If we already vote that in and have that in our pocket, I'm not sure what kind of reception we're going to get from the owners.
I've talked to, when this all first came up, I made contact with Mr. Rudolph, Jack Rudolph, who's present, I believe, here tonight, and then also with Mr. Neil Bateman. And I believe Missy Graham contacted some of the other property owners involved in this. Subsequent to that, and at that point, we're just trying to determine what rights does the city have, if any, to the various parcels of property that the trails was going to go across. We already own some of the property, but there's some that we don't. And at that point then, I asked Mr. Tim Harvey to conduct some research of the property records to determine exactly what rights the city has, and he's done that, and made a report back to the mayor. And so at this point, all this is basically laying the groundwork if we can't reach an agreement. We want to talk to them, to all the property owners, and hopefully we can, through negotiations, reach an agreeable purchase price for the easements and right-of-way for the trail.
I don't know if this question is for you or the mayor or Miss here. Are we dead set on the rails? You know, I know like Mr. Rudolph's property is like 300 acres. I'm assuming that we're not lucky enough that rail goes to one end or the other. It probably goes right down the middle.
On that particular property, as I recall, it's pretty much cuts through the middle, maybe not right through the middle. Some of the other properties, it's more toward the very back, toward one property line. And then I believe on the Marshall Ross, it's clearly just skirts right the edge of his property. But the one where it is more in the middle is the Rudolph, and I believe there's the Duke families involved in it, and there's several family members, I believe, involved in that property. And if you'll look at the ordinance, this is not just eminent domain. It talks about that the mayor acting through the city attorney or his designee may negotiate and enter into agreement for purchase of property. And if that fails, then we're authorized to pursue eminent domain proceedings.
Do we have the leeway in this to move, like instead of going right through Mr. Rudolph's property, can we go around it? I mean, is that an option, or do we have to stick straight?
That's a policy question, not a legal question, but I'd tell you that, we all walked it the other day, and
Right.
it
Right.
looks to me like the very best way to do it would be right along that rail bed.
Sure.
That would be the easiest way, I would
Okay.
think.
You were on the walk too, and I think
Yeah.
it probably was pretty natural
Right.
on the flow. If you get beyond that, the cost could be too costly.
I just wasn't sure where we were, as far as, where Jack's or the Rudolph's property was, at which part we were on their property, and, could we go?
Okay, it was the rail bed. The rail bed is where is there. It has the base that's built up there. It's area. Actually, it's been the area that's been discussed for many years around here for a Rails to Trails project, which the Rails to Trails meaning following the rail bed,
Right.
and so would be following the rail bed. Okay, Mr. Ed.
Yes, sir, Mayor. I just wanted to ask, I guess that was in between my first and the second term, that we lost the mineral rights to the trail there, and is there any way that we can get that back?
Well, thank you for bringing that up. What happened in 2001, I think is maybe late 2000, into 2001, I was made aware of the property, of the mineral rights availability for the property on the rail bed, particularly that was on the rail bed, that where the Rudolph property was, the Levi Simpson property, that combination of families that own that. I was entered into negotiations on the purchase of the mineral rights for about a year. Ended up buying it on behalf of the city of Clarksville as the mayor. Never was anything that was real public about that. It was something I felt that was important, knowing all the years I was aware of a Rails to Trails project that the city had committed to, or at least discussed and was interested in pursuing. And by buying the mineral rights, I felt like that should the city ever need to use eminent domain, if negotiated price could not be reached, if eminent domain was used, if we owned the mineral rights, it would make the purchase of the property less expensive, and the city would be, the cost would be minimized because having owned the mineral rights. That we signed that deed in late 2002, sometime in the middle to late 2002. It was we didn't sign it. It was quit claimed to us on the mineral rights. In 2004, Mayor Trotter, there was a determination by the Gas and Water Department, utilities, that we needed to run a sewer line. I think it was from Mariemont subdivision, somewhere out that area, into the treatment plant. And for whatever reason, they chose not to go down the rail bed to install the utilities. And in negotiations, I wouldn't know anything about those negotiations, but in the negotiations, the city gave up its rights to the mineral rights in return for a utility easement in the floodplain closer to the river. And I was really disappointed in that. I was disappointed because when you lay groundwork, whoever the mayor is or whoever the leadership is, you lay groundwork for your future. And I believe that was probably an example that certainly that good leadership was not, that good management was not taken, because when you own something for a long-range plan of your rails to trails, you don't give it up. That's right. And we gave up those mineral rights back to the property owners. In return, we received the utility easement down there, supposedly it would have been cheaper for us to be down and installed down in the floodplain. In the last couple of days, I was present in a conversation with the contractor that installed that utility line. And it was more construction. And he told me that he remembered that because he was in the process of installing the line, and because of the negotiations on trading of the property, it held up his project an additional period of time, of which, on what I'm about to show you, it cost the city additional funds to be able to put that utility line in the floodplain. I'm going to pass this around. That's the second page you're receiving. The third page is going to come to you. So by trading the utility rights, yes, sir, it became more expensive for us to install the utilities to the tune of $164,467 greater expense added on to the existing utility contract of more construction. If you look on page 1 specifically, it says, in reference to a change in location of pipeline from the station number, the reason for the change is due to easement negotiations between the property owner and the city. Proposed location change is moving the 24-inch line, which was down there, for the exchange. After visiting the property work site on January 13, 2004, Mr. Dwight Luton and Mr. Wade Rudolph, and discussing the work involved due to the change in location, we revised our price according as listed. So what you have in front of you is the increased price for running the utilities down in the floodplain. So you increased your price and gave up your mineral rights. And so in your eminent domain, back again, you're going to probably have to reacquire your mineral rights that we gave away, and then cost us $165,000 more. And when I heard it and I saw it, it's totally disappointing to not have a vision for your city of projects that you want to accomplish for your city, and you do not think forward enough to keep the assets that you have so you can complete your projects. So,
But we can't get them back.
through eminent domain.
But it'll cost us.
I assume it will. When I negotiated the mineral rights, the negotiated price for the mineral rights along that area was $1,200. What I further found out once I learned this, the mineral rights was not only given on the property that we negotiated, it went on and gave the mineral rights all the way behind the existing sewer treatment plant, all the way to the river. That wasn't even part of the part that I negotiated, that I recall. So I think that evidently there wasn't a commitment to rails to trails, is the only thing that I can say. And that's different than what my commitment is. I'm committed to rails to trails. Those of us have been out there in the public. If the public goes out there, they'll find it's a jewel in the city. Any questions? Yeah. Mr. Red, anything else?
No, sir, Mayor. That was all.
Thank you. Mr. Summers?
Reconfirm, sir, the city, you paid $1,200 for all the mineral rights for that whole trail section initially. Okay. Thank you.
Kenny Johnson?
Oh, that was on.
I think you are. I hope you are.
It's off.
Now you are.
Okay. You said that this ordinance gave the mayor or his designee the right to negotiate. But when I read it, it says authorize and exercise of right of eminent domain to obtain easements and right-of-ways.
You look in the very first sentence after the whereas, now therefore be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Clarksville, Tennessee, that the mayor, acting through the city attorney or his designee, may negotiate and enter into an agreement for the purchase of any necessary property rights from affected property owners for the Rails to Trails Recreational Nature Trail project, and said purchase price may reasonably exceed the appraised value with due consideration to the costs of delay and legal expenses involved with the exercise of the right of eminent domain and condemnation litigation. All that's talking about there is that basically the mayor through, who, if he wants me to do it, or if we, use Carol Croft or whoever, Mr. Harvey, whoever, can enter into negotiations with the affected property owners and try to come up with a reasonable price. And the first thing we'll probably need to do is get an appraisal done, so we'll know what is a reasonable price. And this authorizes us to exceed that appraisal price, because you have to, you need to have, if you're the negotiator for the city, you need to have just a little bit of flexibility, because if you just say, well, we're just paying the appraisal price and that is all we're going to pay, then they can say, well, you might as well go ahead and sue me, and then you would end up, as the city, you would end up having to pay, if nothing else, attorney's fees. And even if you win in court, and there's no guarantee that you will only have to pay your appraiser's appraised price, you still would have to pay your attorney's fees. And so you need to factor that in. And then,
So will those have to be voted on separately, though, each property? Or would it be one?
well, not if we can reach an agreement. That's what you're authorizing here, all right? And if negotiations fail, and that's where it says that you see the semicolon, and further, that if agreement cannot be reached, then that's where you're authorizing the mayor, the city attorney, or our the designee, to go ahead then and file the condemnation suit in court.
And are any of those 6 properties on Pollard Road? Because I don't have the map.
I believe some of them may border on Pollard Road. Is that
I
right?
think we own
None
that.
of them?
The city owns that property,
Okay.
the borders on Pollard
Okay.
Road.
And then, last question, have we, I think Mark asked it, but I didn't understand, have we spoken with any of the property owners before today?
Mr. Bateman and Mr. Rudolph are the only ones I've spoken to, and then Mr. Harvey, I'm not sure who he has spoken to, and I don't want to speak for him, so, but I know he's been involved in the process too. And again, this is not, when you enter negotiations, and my own personal opinion on this is that you want to deal from a position of strength. And it helps us in negotiations to already have this ordinance passed that gives us the right of eminent domain. And plus, there's been a lot of preparation that's gone into this with the street department and getting everything ready. And so time is of the essence, and we don't want to dilly-dally and waste time, because time can be money. And so this gives us the right to go ahead, or the authority, I should say, to go ahead and file an eminent domain action.
So you're going to file eminent, you said, okay.
It gives us that authority if we can't reach a negotiated settlement on a purchase price.
We're going to try to negotiate. If we can't negotiate, we'll enter our condemnation proceeding.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions, Ms. McLaughlin?
Sorry, Lance, how much time will be allowed for negotiations, approximately?
I'll take my direction from the mayor, who's the day-to-day operations on that issue, about how much time before he'd make that decision about, okay, it's time we go ahead and cut off negotiations and go ahead and file eminent domain.
What we'd like to do maybe, Ms. McLaughlin and council, would be if we could request a right of entry that would allow us to go ahead and go on, do our thing, and then gives us time to do the negotiations and try to work with the property owners. That gives us the opportunity to move on. That gives us the right to go on. And if not, then that would accelerate our process on negotiations. So hopefully we'll ask for the right of entry, be able to go on, and that would slow down the process a little bit on the eminent domain.
And my second question is, This is very similar to what we did with the J.C.'s property for the marina project. Am I correct?
I believe so.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Harris?
Yes, Mayor, I would just like to say for the record that for the property owners, I hope that they get a fair shake on this deal, because my only reason for saying that seemed like there was a lot of time and effort put forward in detailing what took place with the property owner receiving that property back, receiving their mineral rights back, that with that appraisal that they're given a fair shake and not penalized for the last administration or whoever made the decision to turn it back over, is my only point. Because it seemed like after receiving these documents and looking at it, it's all against the property owner. What was done by the administration of them not having a vision seemed like a good deal to the property owner of getting it back, is what I'm getting at, regardless of your negotiating of getting it for the city and the vision. That property owner may not have that same vision. So my only point is, with eminent domain, I just hope they get a fair appraisal and a fair shake on it.
Mayor, if
I guess I'm a little confused on that.
Well,
Property owner will get fair market value.
If I could address that, it's eminent domain. We don't get to just tell, if we exercise the right of eminent domain and file a condemnation action, we don't get to just tell them, this is what we're going to pay and we ain't paying no more. The city doesn't do that. We can try to reach a settlement agreement, or if we have to try, the judge will make that decision.
Mr. Baker, I totally understand what the process is. My point is, regardless of, a judge can't tell me what my property is worth to me. That's my only point. To the homeowner or the property owner, to the property owner, no appraisal can tell that property owner what it's worth. That's my only point. I mean, I understand what the process means.
Ms. Dirt, you have any comments?
Well, Mayor, and I don't mean to drag the point out, but the agenda is full of eminent domain tonight, and it's really a standard practice, and I think Ed Neely's here, David Shepard, Jack Frazier's here, Wilbur's probably familiar with it, Robert's probably familiar with it. Before we undertake any project, typically we put this in place in case we have to use it. We've always negotiated in good faith, and I think the city will continue to do that. And by the council's own rules, we cannot, if somebody out there said, we'll take $1,000 for it, we can't buy it until we get an appraisal. We can't get on their property until we get permission. And this would allow us to get on their property if we have to be able to get an appraisal. But it's standard with every project that we do that we put this power that's granted to city governments or to the government, we put it in place so it doesn't delay projects. I just thought I'd say that to try to clarify.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Dirt. Any other questions? Okay, your motion in front of you is to approve ordinance 74. Please press your selection. Mark, you know that's in your ward.
Absolutely, absolutely. That decision was based on a lack of information, Mayor.
So you got your newspaper article.
Eminent domain, I don't
Okay.
care where it's at.
Ordinance 74 approved. Thank you. And I will say that this is a project that we're focused on North Clarksville to be able to benefit North Clarksville and moving some quality of life issues out there for the New Providence area, North Clarksville area. We have a commitment as a council to try to continue to bring the amenities to our North Clarksville friends. Okay, Councilman Forster. It was on, it's off. Let's try it again, Bill.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, I'm asking, I'm requesting approval of ordinance 75, 2008-09. That is an ordinance amending the 2008-09 operating budget, ordinance 126, 2007-08, authorizing the city of Clarksville to increase the appropriations for the Parks Department for repairs to the Bel Air Pool House. As you may recall, the pool building at Bel Air Swimming Pool suffered significant fire damage due to vandalism on February 22nd, 2009. The cost of the repairs is anticipated to be $93,700. The funds anticipated to be received from the insurance company after the deductible are $38,892, leaving a balance of $54,808. And we expect that source of funding for this amendment shall be from the insurance proceeds of $38,892 and the fund balance of the general fund for the balance of $54,808.
Make a motion.
I'd make that motion.
Motion. And a second. Any discussion on Ordinance 75? Ms. McLaughlin?
Mayor, I'm all for getting the pool house repaired. I'm just concerned with the person that's receiving the bid on this had filed bankruptcy and owed the gas and water department $30,000 in unpaid fees. So I have a problem with that contractor receiving this bid based on that.
Okay. Any other discussion on Ordinance 75? Please press your select. Mr. Summers, I'm sorry.
I would have to second Deanna's concern there. If somebody was unable, since I'm chairman of Gas and Water right now, and given that we're having considerable issues with some developers and businesses that have to close down because of financial reasons, and if this potential builder or developer, whatever, has not been able to pay the bill to Gas and Water, which is the city department, I don't think he deserves to have a city contract. So I'm going to urge people not support that.
Mr. Forster?
Is this, we put that out on bid, and we only got one response, is that right?
Ms. Graham?
We were able to get emergency purchase authorization to do this, and so we did contact 3 contractors who came and looked at the building, and 2 of them gave us quotes.
Why did you select this one?
Pool's open on May 30th, and so this contractor was able to complete the work in 45 days. The other quote we got was 90 days. And every day that we miss in starting the work impacts our operation and potentially could push back the opening of that pool.
Well, I think you're talking $30,000 on somebody to pay a city department. I think that outweighs any short term.
Mr. Becker, you want to address maybe some of the background on that, the lawsuit, the bankruptcy, I guess?
And let me just point out that that this particular contractor is not on any blacklist with the City of Clarksville's purchasing department, and so it was not, we were going to 3 to get 3 quotes, and so it was only in general discussions that we were even aware of the gas and water issue.
I don't particularly want to kind of air the dirty linen here, but there's some bankruptcy involved here, and in bankruptcy there's different laws that are involved in bankruptcy laws, and the way things are paid through the court, and they're not paid until the court determines what they're paid. I think there's extenuating circumstances. What I'm understanding is that a general encapsulation of that?
All this predated, I think, a lot of my tenure, but my understanding is that he did file bankruptcy and that this particular debt to the city was involved in that bankruptcy. I can't confirm for certain, but it should have been discharged in bankruptcy, so you can't go after him for that debt.
There was a question that I heard earlier today about not having a city business license. I'd like to make this subject to them getting a city business license and a county business license. And I think that we need to make sure. I would like to see all contractors be required to be checked for a city business license. Any other question? Oh, excuse me. You got Mr. Forster. Have you already spoke?
No.
Okay. You're up.
No,
Okay, Ms. Johnson.
I was just going to ask where that information came from about the bankruptcy. Was it something that was discussed on the council previously, or you guys just had that knowledge?
It's public record out of Gas and Water on the, matter of fact, Deanna was initially on the committee that did that. I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Wait just a second. Ms. Johnson, you through?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Red?
Yes, sir, Mayor. I mean, I'm looking at the ordinance, and first of all, it doesn't mention a person's name, and I can remember several years ago, I went in the antique business. I didn't file bankruptcy, but I got, what you might say, pretty close at one time, and in the developer business and a lot of businesses, especially today with the markets, some of them are having a tough time, but again, I don't see a name in here, and to me, it's the department head should This is more of, if we start looking at who this is given to that way, whenever it's not even in the ordinance, it's, I don't know, we're kind of doing a department head's job that already decided to go ahead and go through this project, and I don't know that.
Was the procedure followed properly, Robert Bryant? Was? Okay. Ms. McLaughlin?
It's just the point that we just went through this major reorganization at Gas and Water. Some jobs reorganized, some people, don't have jobs out there because of it. A lot of it was for cash flow. This is part of a cause of a cash flow problem each month when the Gas and Water Committee has to approve write-offs for unpaid debt. And I just feel like we could approve this budget amendment with a different contractor. That's what I would like to see happen. Am I able to make that as a...
But it's just not part of the process. You go through a bidding process, you go through,
Okay, well, I just want to be on the record, I'm against this contractor getting the
that's
job.
fair. Okay, Mr. Summers?
Mayor, you said he didn't have a city or county business license?
That's what I was learning earlier from...
How's he allowed to bid then if he doesn't have the proper credentials up front?
Well, I think he'd be required to have it. Mr. Bryant, you want to address that?
He would have to have it before we could award the bid, and those forms are in his packet. That packet has not been returned to us.
Isn't it-
The contract has been signed at this point.
Isn't general practice, though, those that bid on city contracts are already vetted through the process? The number 2 bid, how much of a price differential was there? Do you recall? $300 higher or lower?
Actually lower.
90 days versus
90
45
days
days.
versus
I understand. And did the second contractor have the proper credentials in terms of licenses and stuff that you know of?
Keep in mind that this was done under emergency purchase.
Hmm.
All forms and permits have to be in place before we can award this.
Hmm.
He was recognized as having the lowest bid, so he's got those papers with him to verify that he got contractor's license, proper
So he was,
bonding. all
You
that.
mean the
was cut.
second guy? The low bid, but it was
Yeah,
90
the
days?
second guy is not involved in it at this point.
Whoever wins the bid, though, will have to have a contractor. By state law.
I understand, but I'm saying.
And a permit,
I thought
and a
normal,
bill, city permit.
I thought normal process was even if you went after somebody, they're supposed to have had all the licenses and stuff.
How would that work? Would you just not award it until you went through a checklist?
We haven't awarded it because we've got to go through that checklist.
So is that normal procedure? You go...
This is not normal. This is not normal. Keep in mind, we're exercising emergency purchase here.
And why is it emergency?
It's an emergency for 2 reasons. First of all, you've got a revenue issue with the city. Secondly, if you open that pool, you've got to have a pool house so that people can go to the restrooms.
Right.
Okay? If you don't do that, then Missy has no choice but not to open that pool. So we exercise those 2 points under the emergency purchase guidelines. But according to state, he still must fill out all forms and give us all licenses before we can award the contract.
And that potentially could take some time there, too.
Well, yes, we'll have to look at it when it gets.
He has 45 days from the date to build it.
Yeah, I've still got problems.
I know what you're saying, but it is what it is. The reason it's emergency because they need to get it open.
Well, but Bel Air doesn't make any money anyway, so I mean, if it loses a week or 2, I don't
Okay.
see where we're killing anything.
You know, gas and water doesn't make money either. You want to close them down?
Well, we're going to work on that, too.
Let me just point out.
You mean
that-
closing them down or making money?
Well, let's say you can survive without a swimming pool. You can't survive without drinking water and your toilet flush.
Well, let me just point out that we have 5 municipal swimming pools. Bel Air is our second highest attended pool.
Yeah, which one makes money, though? It's not, but Bel Air's not, but like 3 or 4.
Our pools are not money makers.
Okay.
It's a quality of life issue.
Anyway, I got
Okay.
problems.
I think we're kind of getting off. Okay, anything else? Let's see here. Ms. Johnson?
Yes, Mayor. We're discussing this. If the man doesn't have the proper credentials, why is it brought to us to vote on?
It's my understanding, maybe they should, maybe I didn't hear this right. Once that the low bid is awarded, then they say you have to have this, 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 and this to be awarded the bid.
Okay.
In that checklist, if he doesn't have the checklist, they don't award the bid.
Well, why is it what? He doesn't have the checklist.
We have to, well, yeah, someone else, do you want to address it again, Robert?
get to the mic good, Robert, because we can't hear you very well.
Hey, Barbara, would you
Yes,
pull
sir.
yours down?
Well,
Yeah, down like there, that's better.
you can't hear me?
Okay.
Okay, in the process that is taking place, there are certain forms that must be filled out.
Yes.
He must provide to us his contractor's license, for example.
Okay.
He must list all of his subcontractors. He must sign a conflict of interest statement, a journal indemnity, provide a bond.
Okay.
All of those things have to be filled out and must be approved by me
Okay.
before we can award this contract. So I can't tell you when he comes back to me, until he comes back to me with those forms,
Oh,
if he's in compliance.
He's just
Okay.
low bidder, right?
He
Or
is the
he's
low
just-
bidder.
but
Okay.
by
Well,
the
he is the
amount.
lowest and best bidder at
okay.
this point.
Okay.
Okay.
But he's not giving you all the information that you need in order for us to
Right.
give him approval for this contract.
Correct. But if he
Okay.
comes back in and he has all of that lined up, we can award him that
Well,
contract.
why are we having that before us now?
If
If
I
he-
could, the problem with this situation, or why we're talking about all this, normally, state law requires that they submit their bids in a sealed envelope, and it has their license number on it and all that, so you know right off the bat, when you first open those bids, you know that they've got all the requirements they have.
But he didn't.
But in this situation, what happened is they got quotes from them by email because this was authorized by the state as an emergency purchase. And I actually called the Department of Commerce and Insurance and the Board of the Contractor Licensing Board. You had to get their approval. And then I also called the Comptroller's Office, Municipal Audit Division, and got their approval, both their policymakers and their legal counsel. And so that's why you had this situation, is we just got quotes, or actually Ms. Graham got quotes from them by email instead of following the real normal bid process where you actually have their license numbers and stuff on the outside of the envelope, and you know when you first get it that they've got it.
Okay.
So that's why we don't know that yet, and we need to verify it. And as far as the business permit, that you have to have a business permit to do business in the city of Clarksville, and you got to have one from the county to do business in the county. But as to my understanding, that's not part. The business permit is not part of the purchasing policy. But the contractor's license is a part of state law.
Okay, and also, we're not awarding the bid here tonight. We're allocating the funding. They award the bids, and in their awarding of the bids, they have a checklist.
Okay.
So all we're doing is, they've come to us and said, we need this amount of money. And what they're really saying is, if y'all will allocate the amount of money, they will make sure all the T's are crossed and I's are dotted. We
Okay.
just need the money.
Okay, I can understand that, but I still don't understand why this particular contractor was brought up tonight. I brought it up.
Okay,
She brought it up.
okay. Mr. Ed?
Yes, sir, Mayor, again, you know, we sit on a legislative body, and this is Robert, and this is Ms. Graham. The only thing that it's got in the ordinance, again, like you said, has nothing to do with who is being awarded a contract. We're just here to allocate the money, and Robert and them go through their checklist, and Ms. Graham asked us for this particular project, and, but I'd like to call for the question.
Okay, question called for after Mr. Harris. Mr. Grubbs, you're up.
I have a question for Robert. Robert, you might have stated, and I might not have caught it, how much time does he have to get that packet back to you?
I haven't set a time limit on it, but he picked it up yesterday, and I'm certain he wants to get started as soon as possible.
So the clock wouldn't start ticking on his 45 days
This will not
till
start
after
until
the
we give him
contract?
a notice to
If it-
proceed.
Okay, thank you.
So the notice to proceed comes after you do all your checklists.
Sure, and after he signs his contract and gives us his bonding.
Or whoever the contract would be.
Okay, Ms. Harris?
Yes, Mayor, I would just like to, again, make a comment that this type of practice for an individual to owe the city money and to be awarded a contract just doesn't seem fair. And also the problem I see with this, the amount of money that we're getting ready to approve may not be the amount anyway, because if the individual don't meet the requirements and so forth, we'll have to amend, because another individual may have to bid on the contract, which the amount would be different, of course more, that we're going to end up approving money anyway. So I think we're definitely in a shady area here with this one individual. This one individual has given us an amount that we don't know he can fulfill. So the council is looking at an amount with I'm saying a shady individual. I'm going to use that term because I don't want, legally bankruptcy or whatever else the other terms is financially. But owing the city $30,000, we have a problem with that.
Okay. Question called for. Please press your selection to approve ordinance 75. Yes to approve it, no is disapprove it. We've got several. Mr. Burkhart, Mr. Forrester. Okay, wait just a second. Madam Clerk, you want to clear it, or? Okay, retouch a button. Yes for approval, no is disapproval. Okay, ordinance 75 is approved on first reading. Okay. Okay, resolution 51 is approving an amendment to the lease agreement for the North Precinct for the Police Department. That is a lease for 2 years for the existing police department. The reason that we went to 2 years instead of 1 year is the requested of the leaseors, but we built into the lease that there is a 6-month out. Should we choose to build a facility somewhere else and do the combination that we've talked about, then we'll be able to notify the leaseor that we'd like to terminate the lease within 6 months, anytime during the lease. So it's a 6-month out. Two-year lease with a 6-month out, Mr. Summers.
What is the rent fee on that, sir? I know the old one was $43,000. I don't know, sure I ever got a number on the new one. Oh, is it in there?
Sorry, didn't see that. I thought that was going to be a simple question, Bill. What? $37.95. Okay, Mr. Summers, that answer your question?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? Please. A second. Thank you. Please press your selection. Scott, what's happening on that? I guess we're having growing pains here with this. There's one. Ms. McLaughlin, you got yours. Yeah. Okay, resolution 51 is approved. Okay, try it again. Okay, let's try it now. Okay, resolution 51 approved. Okay, let's see, what's this now? Okay, resolution 58. This is I hope it's the final resolution for the execution of the terms on the general obligation bonds. We've been through this 2 or 3 times. So I make a motion to approve resolution 58. Been here before on this. Any discussion? Those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed. Resolution 58 is approved. Okay. Please make note of your board appointments. And while I'm on things, most of you have received, I'm going to comment about one before I ask for a motion. Most of you have received an email in reference to, in objection to Mr. Wayne Harrison being selected on the tree board. And I happen to object to the comments in the email. And how about if we get a motion for approval first?
I move for approval.
And second. I have received a couple emails in the past week from Mr. Charles Smith in reference to, first of all, the process that was used for the city charter. He objected to the findings of the 15-member committee. He objected to the votes of the council both times. Some of the things in there I don't agree with at all. I happen to know that he was personally invited to some of those meetings. Some of them he didn't attend. Some of them he attended and never said a word. Sometimes that is convenient, because when you say a word, it's documented. When you don't say anything, then you can write these emails. And it's unfortunate. But when I got the email today in reference to Wayne Harrison, you know, I served with Wayne for several years, each of you did. And I didn't find Wayne Harrison to be a person of providing fraudulent, inaccurate, and deceptive information to the city council. I didn't find him to be unfit. I didn't find him to act illegally as a government official. I didn't find any of that about Wayne Harrison. And one of the reasons why this particular letter was personal to me was because right after I was defeated, the time that I was defeated, the same gentleman wrote a very similar email and letter about me. And it's pretty convenient when you can write things to people and not want to go and speak up about it and throw terms about people's character and try to damage them. What it specifically was talking about was you may recall, those that were on the council, specifically was that Mr. Harrison asked the city employees, different ones, to do some information background for him so he could do an amendment to the budget to decrease the city judge's pay from $29,000 to $15,000. Might have been $12,000, I forget now, but I think it's $15,000. And in that study, it was determined, I have it in front of me, the time study, and there were some other things that were studied. Tuesday, April 1st, 2008, the city court was open 1 hour on Tuesday, on Wednesday 30 minutes, on Thursday 12 minutes, on Friday 40 minutes, on the following Tuesday an hour and 25 minutes, the next day 37 minutes, 55 minutes, 50 minutes, and it goes right on down the list. And what Mr. Harrison did in trying to be a good steward of taxpayer money, he allocated that toward the amount of the pay. And when he was talking about paying someone almost $30,000 a year for 15 and 20 minutes a day, he personally objected to that. And that was his right. That is your right. And just because that he's not here or whoever's not here, I don't think it gives reason to use these types of incendiary type of comments toward a person and use character assassination. Unfortunately, I think that you will find that as you get closer into November next year, you'll start seeing more of this, unfortunately. The last thing that was said was, note, although Mr. Harrison, you all received this, I assume you did. It's in your thing here. The other one here from that was sent in reference to the city charter, I don't think most of you received it. I think 3 of you received it. But the note on the one that I received today says, although Mr. Harrison has demonstrated his inclination towards secretive activities as a government official, I didn't know Mr. Harrison to be secretive, I would like to inform him in advance of my opposition to his appointment. However, I do not have an email address for him. The assistance anyone can provide in informing Mr. Harrison of my opposition to his appointment would be greatly appreciated. Well, I did a clandestine search today, and I went into the local phone book, and I found Mr. Wayne Harrison's address and phone number. And I'd be glad to provide that to Mr. Smith if he really wants to want to know where Mr. Harrison lives and what his phone number is. But it sure sounded good, but if you want, the clandestine comment, when that gentleman is in the phone book, you're in the phone book, and I'm in the phone book, and I take personal offense at this type of character assassination on people for no reason. Mr. Ed.
Yes, Mayor, we could have used you in the second cav during the Cold War with that clandestine operation with the phone.
Yeah.
But that was some good work there that you found Wayne's phone number.
Yeah, I mean, it took a lot of work. Yeah, it's undercover. I had to go undercover to find that.
No.
Anything else?
But I spoke with the city attorney today, Mayor, whenever I received this, and I was disappointed too, and kind of taken back by this. And the city attorney assured me, and I had some concerns because, you know, we do have new council members here, and they might be under the impression that we're not allowed to ask for information from department heads or whatnot, and we're not able to, in private, look for things or searches, do research. But clearly, the charter says that we can ask department heads for information or whatnot, and that's not really a clandestine act or anything. And I would like it if maybe the city attorney would outline, you know, that this letter and say that this is okay for the city council to do that, and maybe send a copy to all of us and the city judge.
Thank you, Mr. Ed. Ms. McLaughlin?
I'm kind of tagging in on what you said, Mayor, about the other letter. How I got it, it didn't come to me. The letter Judge Smith had that he sent to the legislators about the charter revisions. It was actually, I heard it mentioned on the Bone Cutter show Saturday, that it was posted on clarksvilleonline.com, so I went and looked it up. And in reading this, I have to say I was pretty upset, specifically with the section that says, our city council works hard, attends many meetings and functions in a fashion that, in my opinion, is totally orchestrated and controlled by the executive branch of government. The bulk of information utilized by the city council in decision-making is prepared, edited, and shaped by the executive branch of government. To sum it up, he's calling us a bunch of puppets that can't think for ourselves. And I'm offended by that, and I think the rest of this body should be as well. Yes, we do receive information from the department heads on issues that are in front of us. But we also have the opportunity to research things further on our own. And I'm really upset and offended by that. First of all, that he's mentioning us. He didn't send a copy of this to us. He sent it to the state legislators, encouraging them to defeat our charter because he disagreed with some changes that were made. And I'm really upset about that.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis.
Mayor, I just wanted to say, you know, after serving 2 years with Wayne on the city council, there's a lot of things I enjoyed about him, but the most important ones, you always knew where Wayne was coming from. You always knew where he was coming from, and I feel he'll be a great part of the tree board.
Thank you. Mr. Forrester?
You know, I think back, and when Mr. Smith got or Judge Smith got the, 25,000, whatever the raise was, like overnight, and it was, you know, it was the same process getting the increase to start with. It was the same process that we were attempting to bring it back down to a reasonable level, so, you know.
Mr. Ed?
Yes, sir, Mayor. I can't really imagine Wayne on the tree board, but I think he'll be I'm just having a hard time getting my hands around that right there. But, Mayor, in your wisdom, that's what you appointed to. I think Wayne would do a good job. I was thinking more like the Fort Defiance board.
Yeah, really. I wanted to keep him away from that if you didn't mind. Okay, Ms. McLaughlin?
Just one final thing for me is the fact that in the letter to the legislators, he said that we rely on information from the executive branch. And then in the email about Wayne, he accuses him of being secretive for doing research on his own, and that's kind of a conflict.
Yeah. Okay. We made a motion for approval. I would like for those of you that would like to not vote for Mr. Wayne Harrison on the tree board as recommended by the city judge, please mention, there's a motion on the floor for approval of board appointments. Please mention whether or not, if there's anybody on this that you disagree with, then let your feelings be known. And Madam Clerk, I'm ready to vote. So if you hit the vote, there's a motion for board appointments on there. And if you want to object to one, you need to announce it now. Okay. Board appointment approved. Okay. I think that was all. Were there some any other mayor or staff reports that needed to be given? Jim, you remember anything else? I think that's it. Okay, no mayor or staff reports. Any other comments or questions of the council? Motion approved. Motion for adjournment. Oh, second. Those in favor, we're adjourned. Thank you.